to episode 72 of React Native Radio. I'm your host, Nader Dabbit, and today our special guest is Ben Hseih. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Hi, guys.
So today's episode is going to be basically talking about the React Native file system. There's a couple of different libraries out there. I know there was React Native FS, which is similar to the FS module, I believe, in Node. At one point, it was going to be deprecated. I looked at the project recently, and they had taken that little note out about it being deprecated. I'm not sure if it had maybe been handed off to someone else. And then there's React Native Fetch Blob, which is a really good library that Ben created. And because of his experience in working with the file system, we thought it would be a great idea to kind of have him on the show to kind of discuss that whole paradigm, because I know working with the file system in Android and iOS is much different. And I'm kind of curious to talk to him about how he kind of abstracted all of this away and also get any pointers about how to read and write to the actual device. So before we kind of get into the topic, Ben, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a little background about how you got into programming?
Okay, well, I started to use computers since I was a child, but I was just like playing computer games, and it was like I was 12. It's the first time I do something like programming. Is that I began to learn many years ago, and I used Flash to make something like videos, interactive website, and graphic designs. But I didn't actually learn how to programming at the moment. So actually, I'm just like many of programmers. I learned the basics about programming in the college. But when I never thought that I would use JavaScript in my job, because I was writing C++ most of the time and making some programs about image processing and computer graphics. So I think the turning point was when I graduated and started working for a while. And one day I just created because it was so popular at the moment. So, a lot of websites just moved from Flash to the JavaScript, the HTML5 technology. So, I just started to learn JavaScript from W3C school. And after I done some tutorials, we made a program which was an implementation of my master dissertation. It's a 3D computer graphic algorithm. It's written in C++, and it does not have any GUI, so you can only control the program by command. And it took me like a month but what's more is that I add a lot of cool GUIs for the JavaScript version, which gave me a lot of achievement. So it just, changed what I feel about the JavaScript and HTML, because, the modern browsers, they just provide a lot of features which are of the WebGL in the browser. It's really more powerful than I expected, and also to make GUI in with JavaScript and CSS is also super easy compared with other programming language. So I think this is how I get into programming and become a JavaScript developer.
So did you have any experience with native iOS and native Android development before you started kind of working with React Native? Or was this kind of something you learned as you started beginning to work like with the framework?
Before I start use React Native, it had to talk about my last job. I learned development in my last job because, I was in a department which has have to support different kinds of projects like Android app, iOS app, and web. So yeah, I did work on native app for a while, but our department does not have many resources, so we put a lot in like cross-platform development framework. For example, the Cordova, PhoneGap, Ionic. Well, these are basically the same thing, right? The WebView solutions. And also, but we use the WebViews for like a year. We realized that the performance of the mobile device is still not better, not good enough. So we just try other frameworks like Xamarin, Native and the React Native. So I think finally the best solution we found is React Native.
Yeah, totally.
So you've been using React Native. When did you realize that working with the file system is hard? Like, what are the tough parts about working in the file system for React Native?
It was for the first time I used React Native was I'm trying to make a prototype of the first time I used React Native, everything was just so amazing. I was expected I will encounter a lot of problems, but I didn't. But when I'm trying to download an image from our server, and I need to in the request, I realized there's no way for me to do that because I use the fetch in the React Native, and it returns an empty blob to me. So and I just investigate and search on the Google and realized, well, it's not possible. So I can write Android and iOS native code. So I just made a very simple library called React Native Fetch Blob, and you can just do what I named after. Yeah, fetch a blob for you, and that's the beginning of this project. Yeah, and I think the most difficult part of the file system in React Native, different kinds of URIs you have to deal with. Not just like when you are writing Node.js. Well, there is always the file URI you have to take care about, and another problem I think it would be about the performance, because when React Native, the native context, well, every API call it would be serialized to a JSON string and pass through the React Native bridge. And well, in most cases, it's fine, but when it comes to transmitting the file content, the overhead will become a problem. It may just block the main thread, or if the data is too big.
What would be like the main thing people would use something like React Native Fetch Blob for within their app? So if someone listening is kind of working in the React Native ecosystem, like what challenges does React Native Fetch Blob offer a solution for?
I think most people who use this library, well, perhaps they just want to download or upload binary data in their app. I think this most common use case I know, but there is a little. There are some people that do something like encoding, or they need to process the data in the JavaScript. Yeah, so they will also use the library.
What other solutions are there for this type of issue, I guess, in React Native, other than React Native Fetch Blob, just out of curiosity?
You can use React Native FS, but if you're going to read large file or upload large file, it will be a problem because it only supports like base64 format. You have to read or write the whole file, and there would be problems. So React Native Fetch, has more option for you to do this. Like it has file stream, and it also has like sometimes you can just, for example, you want to append the file content from a file to another file. Then you don't have to read the content right to the destination, right? So in React Native Fetch Blob, there's one thing called native to native access. Is that you can simply pass the source, the file path of the source file, and the library, for example, append file, it would do the whole process in native, so you don't need to care about the problem, like performance issue or memory issue, because this library will take care for you.
Would you ever consider working with Facebook or Expo, React Native repo, or to, like a library like Expo?
I don't, I don't have the plan to make pull request to the React Native project or Expo, because I know, this project is very large and complex, and the whole network and the file system. So, for example, if I want to make pull request to Facebook, their project, well, there will be a lot of problems they need to solve. As for the Expo, well, I know they are working on a pull request, just like library into the Expo, but I don't know if they're still working on it or not.
Yeah, this seems like such a very important part of just working, within the mobile ecosystem. I'm just curious what your thoughts are to why maybe they never created something like this, just as just a regular React Native API, or at least added some of these features. Do you have any insight about why that hasn't been done? And if there are any plans for it, or is it just kind of how you just mentioned, because of the complexity and the high overhead for something like this, they kind of would maybe rather have it offloaded to the community? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm also feel confused about why have its own file system API. But I think they don't do this for some reason. I don't know. Yeah.
Do you think it's because most people right now aren't doing stuff like uploading images or they would tackle?
I think perhaps, it's not every app need to deal with the file system. For example, when we are writing website, we perhaps not every website need to use the file API. Native does has a very simple, persistent API, the async storage. So perhaps that's enough for many use cases.
So I'm kind of curious, is this like your first open source project, or have you been involved in open source before this?
The open source project.
So this seems like it's been pretty successful. What do you think about like the project, the success of it, like your just opinions about working, in general with the React Native open source ecosystem, and just your experience so far? And do you plan on, of course, continuing maintenance of this project and maybe even creating other open source stuff in the future?
Right. I think there are still something that React Native, its open source community, can do for this ecosystem. And like for example, React Native does not have very good a very good library for this like SVG. Although there are already some library which can do this, but they does has some performance issue. And for me, I did have some thoughts about to make another project, open source project, about we don't have that much time, I have a full-time job, and I also have to take care about the issues on React Native Fetch Blob. So, I think perhaps I don't have extra time for doing another project at this moment.
Yeah, totally. I understand, because I'm involved in a couple of open source projects, and I even have a lot of people that kind of contribute and actually manage some of them. And I fail to find the time to do all the things that are in my head that I'd like to do. It just seems like, time is it's crazy.
Yeah.
So Ben, can you tell us a little bit about the Web API polyfills and the fetch replacement that you're using?
I think this is an interesting part of this project because, because React Native is not running in the same environment as the browser. So, for example, it does not have a complete blob implementation. So whenever you are trying to use some browser which relies on the blob, it would just not work. So I was wondering if it's possible to implement some polyfills so that this library can work properly on React Native, and I think that's the reason why I made the Filesystem API after I made the blob polyfill follow the W3C standard, and then I realized it's not enough to only make the blob API, because React Native it has its own web API polyfills. There are lots like file reader and fetch, which they can only work with the blob made by Facebook. So which means I have to make the polyfill so that I can replace them, and so I just a lot of polyfill, like just HTML, HTTP request, and the fetch and the file reader. Just it turns out working quite well. So although there are still some bugs, but at least it's working. So like you can now just use like Firebase SDK, Knative, and some libraries like Obo.js is a JSON string library in React Native. I think, well, because there are a lot of assets in the JavaScript community, so if we can do this, perhaps we can make the React Native more tools for them to use, and this is really interesting. Yeah.
So I guess I have a couple of questions about using React Native. I don't know if you may mention this already, but in production, and also using this library in production is what's your experience, I guess, with React Native, like right now and maybe in the past year or so, like within your job? And I guess was React Native Fetch Blob something you created to solve a problem, like for a project you were working with?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I use this library only for the first project I was working. Well, though I've already completed several projects using React Native, but I don't use this library in those projects. Yeah.
So what do you think about React Native just in general, as far as like the library, how it is right this second? And also I'm kind of curious what you feel about the future of React Native and kind of the problems it's solved and the progression of the API, and kind of where you see the whole paradigm of cross-platform mobile app development and how kind of React Native relates to that.
I think React Native is a very good choice for developing mobile app, even in the future, because, well, it has some very powerful features that native app does not have, like code push and hard reload, which are very helpful for accelerated development and make it very easy. And especially the code push, if you're doing something like ABM test, it would definitely most have feature. Yeah.
Cool. So are there any other things that we'd like to kind of talk about before we go ahead and get to the picks? Okay, great. Peter, do you have any picks today?
My pick for this week is Dash, the Mac app for libraries and frameworks. So basically what you do is just download a bunch of document sets for Flow, React, React Native, TypeScript. It has documentation, and you can save it for like offline. And then if you're using the Alfred app, you can put together a workflow that lets you search through like all these documentations directly through Alfred, and it's super fast. It's been one of my most productive tools that I've added to my tool belt today.
Okay, great. Ben, do you have any picks?
I will pick Webpack Bundle Analyzer. Well, it's not a new thing, but I just know it's like several weeks ago. I've used this plugin to reduce our bundle size, and this plugin, it just represents your bundles composition in the tree map, and with the tree map, which is really useful if you are going to optimize your JavaScript bundle, and it can help you spotting problem very quickly. Well, if you haven't tried it, I think you should definitely give it a try. Well, it's super easy to use and work seamlessly out of the box.
Definitely, I'll definitely have to check that out. I don't think I'm aware of that plugin. So my pick is going to be a new Pluralsight course put out by Samer Buna. It's called Advanced React, and it's pretty good, complete overview if you kind of want to just get a refresher on everything going on in React Web at the moment, including things like server-side rendering. If you want to dive into context, higher order components, performance optimization, deployment, stuff like that. It's a really good, expensive course. And I'm kind of going through it just to refresh my knowledge on React Web because I do so much React Native. It's kind of hard for me to keep up with everything going on. And this has been a really concise way to kind of get all of that. So definitely recommend that. And Pluralsight in general is always a good choice. There's a lot of good stuff on machine learning there. And it's a really good value for me at $29 a month. They're not a sponsor or anything like that. I'm just plugging them because I really, really enjoy it. Okay, well, that wraps up episode 72 of React Native Radio. Thank you, Ben, for coming to join us from all the way across the world.
Okay, I'm really interested. Feel very happy to talk with you guys.
Yeah, have a good night while I'm enjoying breakfast.
Okay, well, that wraps up episode 72. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.